We all want to help set our children up for success in life, but are there concrete steps you can take to help them become the next entrepreneur starting a billion-dollar tech company? Here with advice on how to give your child a head start at tech stardom is Alexandra Samuel, technology researcher and author of Work Smarter with Social Media. Alexandra, welcome. Aren't we thinking a little too big here, trying to create the next Mark Zuckerberg? There's not a formula for that, is there?
I wish there were. I wish there were. I think it's a matter of having some focus or vision in how you approach your kids' use of technology and their engagement with the business world. And, I'm not suggesting that if everyone applies this handy 5-step formula, we're going to have 1,000 Facebooks in another decade, thank God.
Right.
But I do think that, a lot of us do see that the way that the economy is working now, frankly, that the 20s are a really good period for kids to have that encounter experience with startup world if they're going to have it. And frankly, what it takes to prepare kids for that opportunity or to make that opportunity as likely as possible is actually the same approach that's going to prepare them well for just about any path in life.
It sounds great. Let's get into some of your specific pieces of advice. The first one you say is to try and raise problem solvers. And what are some ways we can do that?
Absolutely. And, I think if you look at any successful entrepreneur, you see that they have this relentless kind of curiosity and a desire to not just take products or experiences the way they find them, but to really think about how can I make this better? And of course, in the tech world, those kinds of problems creep up all the time. And so, if your kid is frustrated by the way Netflix displays her favorite TV shows, instead of just listening to her complain about it, ask her, how would you do it? How would you try and make a better Netflix? And of course, it's not just in the tech world. I mean, most kids whine and complain a lot, but all those complaints are an opportunity to help them see how they could do something better.
Absolutely.
They don't like the way the car seat feels. How would they make a better car seat?
Great advice. Have them think forward. Now, your next piece of advice is a bit contrarian because it's something that a lot of parents, I think, would be surprised by. You say make them very familiar with social media before they turn 13. Is that right?
That's right. And of course, being familiar with social media isn't the same as having your own, open access Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram account. It means, using social media yourself, as the vast majority of parents do, at least when it comes to, Facebook and LinkedIn, but actually including your kids in that conversation. And, in our own family, I wrote a social media policy for our family when our youngest was, I think, maybe 2. And it was kind of a joke, but it's ended up having a really good impact on how our kids relate to the social world, because we established at a very young age that you never post anything in our family without asking other people if it's okay to post. So if my kids say something that I want to post on Twitter or Facebook, I ask their permission. And as a result, they're very conscious of what kinds of things do we share, what kinds of things do we not share, what is this all about anyhow?
Right.
And they're interested. They look at our Facebook accounts, they look at our Twitter accounts. They've had their own handles for a long time, even though they don't have access to being able to post on their own behalf. And so, for them, social media is very much kind of an extended part of our family.
What I worry about, though, as a parent is that the social media world can be very glib, very superficial, sometimes even cruel. And I worry that children don't yet have the emotional resources to sort through that.
Absolutely. And I think, it's kind of a graduated process. So, certainly the first experiences I have on Facebook, I did not, I don't show the kids people saying mean stuff to me on Twitter. I show the kids, hey, like last week, my daughter sewed herself a bandolier that allowed her to put all of her stuffed animals on and carry them around. And I I Facebooked that. Tons and tons of people liked it. And I showed her, hey, I think somebody suggested you might want to sell these on Etsy. And, that kind of feedback makes her feel plugged into the larger world.
Right. Right. That makes sense.
The nasty stuff comes. I mean, she now does have her own Twitter account, and she's been followed by a bunch of sort of porny spam accounts that we've had to block. And, that is part of the reality. But because we have an open conversation about it and we knew she had this Twitter account, we've been able to help her navigate that.
You have to keep on top of it for sure. Now, moving on, do you think we can encourage our kids to actually start their own ventures at a young age? Is that even possible?
Absolutely. I mean, it's The flip side of a universe in which we have now what people call the gig economy, right? That so many people are trying to kind of put together a living between, Airbnb and Uber and Lyft and Etsy, is that, frankly, a lot of those same channels. I mean, I don't recommend that you sign your 12-year-old up as an Uber driver, because I think even Uber would have some issues with that. But I do think that, there are a number of sites which make it really easy for kids to set up their own stores. And I think selling products online is a better idea than services. Like, I would not want my 14-year-old daughter to have a Craigslist ad saying 14-year-old available for babysitting.
Yes.
But I think it's our daughter has had an Etsy store since she was 8. Creative Market, which allows people to sell design work, is another place that people can sell their work. And of course, a kid who is into coding can start building and sharing, if not selling, their resources within different kinds of gaming communities.
And of course, you mentioned coding, but there are lots of different abilities in the tech world, and helping your kids sort of zone in on their particular talents is part of it, correct?
Absolutely. And, in our own family, we have one kid who's more drawn to coding and one who's more drawn to the design piece. And so, I think it's important to encourage. I mean, I have a lot of concerns about that, because the coder is our son and the designer is our daughter. And having lived as a woman in the tech universe for 20 years, that's such a common division that we've really wanted to encourage our daughter to pursue coding so that we don't fall into that kind of ghettoization in our own family.
Right.
That said, if you're visual, there's perhaps even more easy entry points into entrepreneurship, because so many people, need design work, need illustrations. You can take photographs and sell them on websites that provide stock photography. You can do illustrations and sell them on Creative Market. Mm-hmm. So again, just as a good tech startup is made up of more than coders, there's a lot of opportunity to cultivate the promise of entrepreneurship among kids who have other kinds of talents that may not even be design or technical at all. Maybe your kid is going to be the marketing genius behind a software company. Maybe your kid is going to be the person who actually runs operations.
Right.
It's about helping them find their own niche.
It's fantastic to hear about the positive side of screen time. Thank you so much, Alexandra Samuel, for that.
Thank you.